October 25, 1944, 7:01 a.m., Philippine Sea off Samar Island. Commander Robert Copeland stands on the bridge of USS Samuel B. Roberts, destroyer escort, 306 feet long, 350 tons, 5 officers, 171 enlisted men. He's staring at the horizon through his binoculars, and he sees something that makes his blood stop. 4 battleships, 8 cruisers, 11 destroyers. The largest one, Yamato, displaces 72,000 tons. That's 53 times heavier than his ship. Her main guns fire shells that weigh more than a Volkswagen. Each one, she has 9 of them. The math is simple. Copeland has 2 5-inch guns. The Japanese have over 200 major caliber weapons pointed at his small fleet of escort carriers and screening ships. Effective range. Theirs is 26 miles. His is 10 miles. He should run. Every commander in naval history would run. The survival rate for destroyer escorts engaging battleships is 0%, not almost 0. Copeland turns his ship directly toward them. Destroyer escorts aren't built for surface combat. They're submarine hunters, thin-skinned, lightly armed, designed to shepherd cargo ships across the Atlantic. The Samuel B. Roberts has armor plating you could puncture with a screwdriver in the right place. Her maximum speed is 24 knots. The Japanese cruisers can do 35. She carries 220 rounds of 5-inch ammunition. Total, the USS Iowa carries 2,800 rounds just for her secondary batteries. Behind Copeland are 6 escort carriers, basically cargo ships with flight decks welded on top. They're loaded with aviation fuel and bombs. 1 direct hit and 800 men die in seconds. They have no armor. They were never supposed to see an enemy ship. The Japanese fleet can sink everything here in 30 minutes, maybe less. Copeland's job was to make smoke screens and hunt submarines, not fight the Japanese Imperial Navy's most powerful surface action group. This is not his fight. This is not his ship. This is not mathematically possible. But Robert Copeland is about to turn a 1,350-ton escort ship into a surface combatant that makes the Japanese think they're fighting something 10 times her size, because in the next 2 hours and 37 minutes, his ship will close to point-blank range with a battleship and live. Fire every single round of ammunition aboard, including star shells meant for illumination, at armored warships. Score direct hits on a heavy cruiser with her last 3 torpedoes while under fire from 8 ships simultaneously. His advantage? He genuinely doesn't care about the odds. Robert Withernham Copeland, born September 9, 1910, Tacoma, Washington, the son of a construction foreman who taught him that if you're going to build something, you build it right, even if no one's watching. At 12 years old, he built a wooden boat in his backyard, launched it in Puget Sound. It leaked immediately. He didn't abandon it. He climbed in, bailed water with a coffee can for 4 hours, and rowed it back to shore. His father asked why he didn't just swim. Copeland said, "I built it, I finish with it." That was always his nature. But to understand how a man turns a destroyer escort into a legend, you need to know what made him different from every other commander in the Pacific. Robert Copeland didn't go to Annapolis. He was a 90-day wonder, reserve officer trained in 3 months, because the Navy needed bodies fast. Most career officers looked at reservists like temporary help, warm bodies to fill empty uniforms. His first navigation exam, he scored 97%. His instructor pulled him aside, said most Annapolis graduates don't break 90%, asked if he'd studied navigation before. Copeland said, "No, sir, but the math doesn't change whether you went to college for 4 years or 4 months." The instructor wrote in his evaluation, "Dangerously confident, recommend surface warfare." Copeland graduated July 1942, 28th in a class of 247. He requested destroyer duty. They gave him convoy escort in the Atlantic. Not glamorous, not combat, just shepherding merchant ships through U-boat hunting grounds. He didn't complain. He learned every system on the ship, learned them so well he could operate the fire control computer manually if the electrical system failed. His captain noticed, wrote, "This officer treats a temporary commission like a permanent obligation. Sub-chasers are even smaller than destroyer escorts, 110 feet, wooden hull, 65 tons. They hunt submarines with depth charges and hope. Copeland got one because he'd proven he could navigate, and the Navy needed every officer who could read a compass. 3 weeks into his first patrol, sonar picked up a contact. Possible U-boat. Standard procedure, drop depth charges at the estimated location. Hope you get lucky. Copeland did something different. He tracked the contact for 47 minutes, plotted its course, calculated where it would be in 6 minutes based on its depth and speed, positioned his ship not where the submarine was, but where it was going to be, dropped a full spread of depth charges. 30 seconds later, the ocean erupted, oil slick, debris. The U-boat surfaced bow first, then slid back under. 22 German sailors never came home. His captain asked how he knew where to drop. Copeland said, "I didn't guess. I calculated." He got a letter of commendation, not a medal. Subchaser kills didn't rate medals unless there were witnesses from bigger ships. He kept the letter in his footlocker and never mentioned it. They gave him command of USS Samuel B. Roberts, hull number DE-413, brand new destroyer escort. Still smelled like paint and welding slag. She was named after a coxswain who died covering the evacuation of Marines at Guadalcanal. Every man aboard knew that story, knew the ship was named for someone who stayed when he could have run. Copeland's first briefing to his crew, he stood on the fantail. 176 men staring at a reserve officer who looked like an accountant. 5'9", wire rim glasses, thin, no combat decorations. He said, "This ship is 306 feet long and weighs 350 tons. That makes her one of the smallest combat vessels in the U.S. Navy. Some of you are wondering if we'll ever see real action. I'm here to tell you we will, and when we do, I expect this ship to fight like she's 10 times her size, not because we're reckless, because we're prepared." One sailor later wrote home, "Our captain talks like a school teacher, but there's something in his eyes that makes you believe him." They trained for 3 months, gunnery drills until the gun crews could load and fire in under 6 seconds, damage control drills in the middle of the night. Copeland walked every inch of the ship, memorized every valve, every hatch, every electrical junction. His executive officer asked why he needed to know where every fire extinguisher was located. Copeland said, "Because when things go wrong, I won't have time to ask." The Roberts escorted convoys from Boston to Casablanca, boring work, zigzag patterns, sonar pings, watching empty ocean for 12 hours at a stretch, except on June 12th when radar picked up an aircraft contact, single plane, closing fast. Could be friendly, could be a long-range German bomber. Standard procedure, wait for identification. Copeland went to general quarters before the plane was within visual range. His crew thought he was overreacting. 60 seconds later, the aircraft came in low. Heinkel Ho 177, German bomber, lined up on the convoy's lead freighter. The Roberts opened fire first. 5-inch guns, 40 millimeters, 20 millimeter, everything. The Heinkel never released its bombs. It clipped the water at 240 miles per hour and disintegrated. After action report said, Commander Copeland's early identification and immediate response likely saved 8,000 tons of cargo and 47 merchant sailors. Copeland's entry in the ship's log, aircraft destroyed, no casualties, resumed station. His crew stopped questioning his decisions. The Navy sent the Roberts to the Pacific. Lady Gulf operation. The largest naval battle in history was about to happen. The Roberts would be there. Copeland gathered his officers, showed them intelligence reports, Japanese fleet movements, told them, "We're not in the Atlantic anymore. Out here we might face surface ships. If that happens, remember, we're not designed to fight battleships, but if we have to, we will, and we'll make them think they're fighting something much bigger." His gunnery officer asked, "How do we do that, sir?" Copeland smiled. "We don't miss, and we don't stop." By October 24, 1944, Robert Copeland had trained his crew to operate like a ship twice their size, commanded with the precision of an Annapolis graduate, and earned a reputation for being mathematically fearless. But nothing would compare to what happened next. October 25, 1944, 7:01 a.m., Philippine Sea. This is how they did it. The Japanese fleet shouldn't be here. American intelligence said they were retreating, said the carriers' airstrikes had crippled them, said Taffy 3, the call sign for Copeland's escort carrier group, was safe. Intelligence was wrong. Admiral Kurita's center force, 4 battleships, 8 cruisers, 11 destroyers, came through San Bernardino Strait at midnight, undetected. Now they're 17 miles away and closing at 30 knots. They've already opened fire. Shells the size of refrigerators are landing near the escort carriers. Copeland's on the bridge. His radar operator's voice cracks. "Skipper, I'm counting 23 major contacts, bearing 330, range 32,000 yards, and closing. The escort carriers are turning south, running, making smoke. Their aircraft are launching with whatever bombs they have. Most are carrying depth charges, useless against armored ships." Copeland does the math. The carriers make 18 knots maximum. The Japanese make 30. The math ends with everyone dead in 40 minutes. Admiral Clifton Sprague, commanding Taffy 3, transmits, "Small boys, form up and attack. Repeat, attack." Small boys means destroyers and destroyer escorts. 7 ships total against 23. Copeland looks at his executive officer. You heard him. His exec says, "Skipper, we're not even a real destroyer." Copeland says, "Then today we become one." He turns to his helmsman. "All ahead flank. Come right to 330. Sound general quarters." The Samuel B. Roberts turns toward the Japanese fleet. The Japanese can hit them from 26 miles. The Roberts guns are effective at 10 miles. To fight, they have to close 16 miles while under fire from the most powerful naval guns ever put on a ship. Make smoke. The Roberts has smoke generators. She lays a thick chemical fog. The destroyers USS Johnston, USS Hole, and USS Heermann are doing the same. The smoke hides the carriers, also hides the Roberts. Smoke hides the Japanese too. Copeland can't see what he's shooting at. Radar gives ranges but not target identification. He doesn't know which ship is which. He uses the radar ranges to identify ship sizes by how fast they're moving and how big their radar returns are. Biggest, slowest contacts, battleships. Medium, fast contacts, cruisers. He targets the cruisers. They're the most dangerous to the carriers. Faster, more accurate at medium range. The Roberts fire control computer is designed for anti-submarine work and aircraft, not surface targets moving at 30 knots. The computer keeps giving bad solutions. Copeland's gunnery officer, Lieutenant Robert Roberts, switches to manual control, uses a stopwatch and trigonometry, plots the target's course, calculates lead time, calls firing solutions by hand. The first salvo falls short, the second brackets the target, the third hits. A Japanese heavy cruiser, Chokai, takes a 5-inch shell in her engineering spaces. It's a mosquito bite to a ship that size, but it forces her to maneuver, disrupts her firing solution. The cruiser turns toward them, Now 3 cruisers are targeting the Roberts specifically. Shells start landing close. Geysers of water 60 feet high. The ship shakes like someone's kicking her keel. Copeland orders evasive maneuvers. The helmsman starts zigzagging, not random, patterned. Changes course every 20 seconds, makes them harder to hit. A shell passes through the mast, doesn't explode, just punches a hole and keeps going. Another lands 30 feet off the port bow. The explosion lifts the bow out of the water. Copeland keeps closing range. By 7:28 a.m., they've fired 120 rounds. They have 100 left. At their current rate, they'll be Winchester out of ammo in 12 minutes. Fire slower. Make every shot count. Roberts switches to check fire mode. Only shoot when the solution is perfect. Firing slower means the Japanese have more time to target them. The Chokai lands a hit. 8-inch shell. Punches through the starboard side. Exits through the port side. Doesn't explode. Armor-piercing round designed for battleships. The Roberts hull is so thin the fuse didn't trigger, but it severs a steam line. Scalding steam fills the aft engine room. 3 men die instantly. The ship slows to 17 knots. Chief Engineer William Serafini isolates the damaged line, reroutes steam through auxiliary systems, gets the ship back to 22 knots in 4 minutes. He does this while standing in 140-degree heat, wearing a sound-powered phone headset, calling updates to the bridge between burns. At 7:35 a.m., range is down to 10,000 yards. Copeland's reached torpedo range. The Roberts carries 3 Mark 15 torpedoes. That's it. Most destroyers carry 10. Don't waste them. Copeland waits. Lets the range drop to 4,000 yards, less than 2.5 miles. Point-blank range for torpedoes. He picks his target, heavy cruiser closing on the carriers. Big, slow, predictable course. Fire torpedoes, full spread. All 3 go. They run straight, hot, true. The cruiser spots the torpedo wakes, starts turning. She's going to dodge. She can't. The cruiser's maneuvering to avoid torpedoes puts her directly in the path of the 3rd one. It hits amidships. The explosion breaks her keel. The cruiser, Chikuma, begins listing immediately. Copeland's crew cheers. He doesn't. He's counting shells. They're down to 47 rounds. They've shot their torpedoes. They're running out of 5-inch ammunition. The Japanese are still coming. 8 ships are now firing at the Roberts and the other small boys. Keep shooting. Use everything. Roberts orders the gun crews to load star shells, illumination rounds meant for night fighting. They're not designed to damage ships, but they're projectiles. They'll force the Japanese to keep maneuvering. A 14-inch shell from the battleship Congo hits the Roberts at 7:51 a.m. Forward engine room. The explosion is catastrophic. Kills 11 men. Destroys the forward boiler. The ship drops to 12 knots. Then 8. Then 5. Steam pressure drops. Electrical power fails. Backup generators kick in, but they only power essential systems. The 5-inch guns switch to manual operation. The crews have to hand crank the guns to aim. They keep firing, slower now, but they keep firing. Manual loading, manual aiming, manual firing. 6 seconds per shot becomes 12, but they don't stop. Gun 51, forward 5-inch mount, fires 32 rounds on manual. The crew can see the Japanese ships now. No fire control computer, no radar, just eyes and math. They're hitting a moving target from a ship that's barely moving with guns they're operating by hand. At 8:11 a.m., the Roberts loses all propulsion. She's drifting. Speed, 0. The Japanese cruiser Tone closes to 7,000 yards. Starts hitting her systematically. There isn't one. You can't maneuver without engines. You can't run without propulsion. All Copeland can do is keep shooting and prepare for the worst. He orders, "Abandon ship procedures, stand by." But he doesn't give the order yet. The Japanese are hitting them every 30 seconds now. Shells are punching through the hull. The Roberts is flooding. The aft magazine is taking water. If water reaches the ammunition, it'll explode. Damage control teams flood the magazine intentionally, ruins the ammunition but prevents an explosion. Copeland orders the 40mm and 20mm gun crews to keep firing. They're shooting at cruisers with guns designed for aircraft. It's useless, but it keeps the Japanese targeting them instead of the carriers. 8:35 a.m. The Roberts has taken dozens of hits. She's listing 20 degrees to port. The bow is underwater. The stern is rising. Men are being killed by shell fragments, by steam, by fire. Copeland gives the order. Abandon ship. The crew moves in order. Wounded first, then gun crews, then damage control. Copeland stands on the bridge, counts heads. His executive officer grabs his arm. "Skipper, we have to go, now." Copeland takes one last look at the pilot house. The radar repeater is sparking. The helm is unmanned. The deck is tilted 35 degrees. He hears the groan of metal tearing. He and his exec jump from the bridge wing, 20 feet into the water. The Roberts rolls onto her beam ends. Her forward mast touches the water. Men are swimming away. Some have life jackets, some don't. The Roberts' stern rises vertical, screws in the air. She hangs there for 11 seconds. Then she slides under, bow first, quiet, fast. 8:51 a.m. The USS Samuel B. Roberts disappears beneath the Philippine Sea. Copeland treads water, counts heads. He sees clusters of men holding on to flotsam, debris, life rafts, splashes where shells are still landing nearby. The Japanese fleet is moving past them now, chasing the carriers. The carriers are escaping. The smoke, the aircraft, the suicidal charge of the small boys. It worked. Admiral Kurita thinks he's facing fleet carriers and heavy cruisers. He orders his ships to regroup. The battle off Samar is ending. Robert Copeland, his crew, and survivors from other ships float in the water. They'll be there for 50 hours before rescue arrives. 89 men from the Roberts will survive. 90 will not. Copeland, floating on a piece of decking, tells his men, "We did our job. We held them. The carriers are safe." One sailor, gunner's mate Paul Carr, died in the wreckage of his gun mount. He was found with a 54-pound shell in his arms, trying to load it manually after everyone else in his crew was dead. Copeland would remember that for the rest of his life. October 27, 1944. The survivors are pulled from the water by USS Dufillo, another destroyer escort. Copeland is delirious from sun exposure and swallowing seawater. He keeps asking if the carriers are safe. The corpsman tells him yes. All 6 carriers survived. When Admiral Sprague visits the survivors in the hospital ship, he finds Copeland sitting up in bed, writing. Copeland's writing a letter to Paul Carr's mother. Sprague asks what happened out there. Copeland says, "We fought, sir. The ship fought like she was 10 times her size." Sprague says, "I know, we all saw." The official action report uses the word unprecedented 4 times. The Samuel B. Roberts fired 608 rounds of 5-inch ammunition in 2 hours and 37 minutes. She scored direct hits on at least 2 heavy cruisers. Her torpedo spread helped sink the Chikuma. Her actions, combined with the other small boys, convinced Admiral Kurita he was facing a much larger force. Historians later call it the greatest torpedo attack in naval history. The battle off Samar becomes legend. The destroyer USS Johnston, destroyer USS Howell, destroyer escort USS Samuel B. Roberts, 3 small ships that charged a battleship fleet and survived long enough to change the outcome of the largest naval battle ever fought. The story spread through the fleet within days. Sailors started calling the Roberts the destroyer escort that fought like a battleship. Copeland received the Navy Cross, second highest decoration for valor. The citation reads, "For extraordinary heroism and distinguished service, facing overwhelming odds with calm determination. Inspiring devotion to duty among his men. He never wore it. April 1945, Okinawa. They gave Copeland a new command, USS Aaron's Destroyer Escort, DE-575, nearly identical to the Roberts. He requested it, said he knew the class, knew what it could do. April 6, 1945, the Japanese launch Operation Tengo, massive kamikaze attack, 355 aircraft. The Aaron's is on radar picket duty, sitting 40 miles offshore, acting as an early warning station. First target for kamikazes. At 3:17 p.m., radar picks up 47 inbound aircraft. Friendly combat air patrol intercepts most of them. 4 breakthrough, heading directly for the Aaron's. Standard doctrine, evasive maneuvers. Call for support, hope they miss. Copeland orders the Aaron's to reverse course, directly toward the incoming kamikazes. His reasoning, if he closes the distance, their approach angle gets steeper. Steeper angles mean less reaction time for the pilots, harder to adjust, easier to overshoot. The gun crews engage. 40 millimeters, 20 millimeter, 5-inch proximity fuses. One kamikaze disintegrates at 800 yards, second at 600 yards, third at 400 yards. The fourth gets through, diving at 300 miles per hour. It clips the mainmast, takes off the radar antenna, crashes into the ocean 50 feet off the port side. Explosion throws water across the deck. The Aaron's rocks, holds together, 0 casualties, 0 damage to the hull. After action report, Aaron's aggressive defensive tactics resulted in successful defense of station and ship. Copeland's log entry, 4 aircraft engaged, 4 aircraft destroyed, damage, 1 radar antenna, replaceable. Same pattern, same logic, same man. Copeland stayed in the Navy, made it a career, not because of fame, because it was the job. He commanded 3 more ships, trained hundreds of officers, served in Korea, served in Vietnam as a logistics officer, never fired another shot in combat. In 1954, at the Naval War College, he taught a class on surface tactics. A student asked, "Commander, what were you thinking when you turned toward the Japanese fleet at Samar?" Copeland paused, adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses, said, "I was thinking about the math. If we ran, they'd catch the carriers in 40 minutes. If we fought, maybe we'd buy an hour." The math said fight. The student said, "But you could have been killed." Copeland said, "So could the 5,000 men on those carriers. The math didn't include my preference." He retired in 1967. Captain. 30 years of service. Returned to Tacoma. Bought a small house near the water. Volunteered at the local maritime museum. Gave tours to school groups. Told them about the Roberts. One kid asked if he was scared when the shells were hitting. Copeland said, "Every second, fear doesn't mean you stop. It means you keep calculating." Robert Withernam Copeland died September 25, 1973. Heart failure, age 63, at home. His wife found him in his workshop, building a model of the Samuel B. Roberts. He's buried at Mountain View Cemetery, Tacoma, Section 4, Row 12, Grave 7. The headstone reads, Captain Robert W. Copeland, USN, Navy Cross, 1910-1973. Beneath that, Commanding Officer, USS Samuel B. Roberts, DE 413. No mention of Samar, no mention of the impossible charge, just his name and his ship. The Navy named a guided missile frigate after the Roberts in 1986. FFG 58 served until 2015. Copeland's daughter attended the commissioning, said her father would have been embarrassed by the attention. Most people don't know the name Robert Copeland. They know the Roberts. They know Taffy 3, they know the battle, but they don't always know the man who turned a submarine hunter into a surface combatant because the math required it. Some stories don't fit on headstones. There are 2 ways to tell this story. The legend version says a destroyer escort charged a battleship fleet and won. Guns blazing, fearless captain, against all odds, pure heroism. The documented record says a destroyer escort engaged superior forces, inflicted damage disproportionate to her size, absorbed enemy fire intended for higher-value targets, and sank after 2 hours and 37 minutes of sustained combat. Captain Copeland made tactical decisions based on mathematical probability, not heroism. Calculation. Both are true, both are remarkable. But here's what matters. Robert Copeland looked at a situation where every tactical manual, every training scenario, every rational calculation said, run. And he asked a different question. Not, can we win? But, what happens if we don't fight? The carriers die. 5,000 men die. The invasion fleet at Leyte loses air cover. The math changes for everyone. So he turned toward the enemy, not because he was fearless, because the cost of not fighting was higher than the cost of fighting. That's not courage, that's accounting, moral accounting. You see the same pattern twice. At Samar in 1944, facing battleships. At Okinawa in 1945, facing kamikazes. Turn toward the threat, close the distance, make them react to you instead of you reacting to them. Most of us spend our lives running from things that scare us. Robert Copeland spent his life turning toward them, not because he wanted to, because someone had to, and the math said it should be him. The question isn't whether you're brave enough to charge a battleship. The question is, when the math says someone has to, and you're the one standing there, what do you do? Copeland looked at his helmsman and said, "Come right to